let's dig into it. So the average rating from Google audiences is about 80%. You have Common Sense Media that gave it 60%. Internet Movie Database 67%. Metacritic 72%. And I think Rotten Tomatoes had the best percentage of all. They were as high as 94% with this movie. Now, I was talking about how they did the early reviews before when they did the early release, and a lot of people were saying that they thought it was better than even Chucky and Annabelle. After watching this movie, I have to say I tend to agree with most of that. It was pretty up there. My personal rating on it, I would probably give it about an 8 out of 10. So I think the acting was pretty good. There was a lot of scenes in there that were, like I said, there was emotional. It was also a mix of suspense with thriller, a little bit of action, a small drop of comedy. I think that the casting was pretty good. Here's what Common Sense Media said. Or actually, you know what? Before I even read that, let me read some of the audience reviews from Google. Now, I'm not going to read that one because that kind of gives it away that this person is just outright spoiling the movie. But hey, at least he put spoiler alert in it. So he told, M3GAN was definitely one of my hit movies up with the Chucky series, and of course, Avatar: The Way of the Water. I can listen to M3GAN sing all day, and it's just so funny, but it got me crying half the movie. I would love to see the movie again and again and never get tired of it. It's just so fun and entertaining. I hope they make a second one. I wonder how that's going to be. But other than that, it was so good. And when I got out of the movie theater, I couldn't stop thinking about the movie. And the sense was just that good. I would 100% watch it if you are a fan of the Chucky series and the Annabelle series. But for me, I can't wait what comes out next. M3GAN, who knows another movie is a little scarier, blah, blah, blah. It's cliche, but it works. This is another review. A wonderful thing about James Wan is that the ideas he put in his movie is not new, but it is satisfyingly good to watch. We all know that M3GAN will eventually become bad, but how she does it, though, is the creepy part, and you will enjoy watching. So you can agree with that. This one says one of the best movies ever. This one says awesome. This one says I watched it earlier today. I was on my way to the theater. I was feeling butterflies in my stomach as if I was on the way to meet a real celebrity in person. With that being said, the duration of this movie felt so short. I wanted the story about this girl to be longer. Instead of displaying short clips about all the adventures they used to have together, blah, blah, blah. I watched M3GAN twice last night, and I was completely sold by the entire movie with the two main actresses, Allison Williams and Violet McGraw, the voice of M3GAN, Jenna Davis, and the physical role of M3GAN, Amy Donald. The music, the fun scenes, the emotion scenes, the emotional scenes, the kill scenes, the whole 9 yards. I smiled, I cried, and I was impressed. Now, let's get to one of my favorite parts here. So this is Common Sense Media. Positive messages. Are there positive messages in the movie? The movie addresses many themes from grief and loss to rampant consumerism without concern for consequences. There's also a sequence that looks at the complexities of bullying behavior, but the main message, of course, is the danger of hubris, like the original Frankenstein story. Imperfect human beings can only create imperfect life. This one right here says what parents need to know. Parents need to know that M3GAN is a horror movie about a robot doll who befriends a grieving young girl before things go terribly wrong. It's well made, although violent, and focuses on human needs as well as artificial ones. Characters are killed, and there are discussions about death, loss, and grief. Someone's ear is ripped off, and characters are stabbed, strangled, shot with a nail gun, sprayed with a chemical sprayer, bitten by a dog, etc. A child survives a car crash with bloody cuts on her face. There are lots of fighting and a violent showdown. Now let's get down to it. The story. In M3GAN, robotics engineer Gemma works for a toy company and is trying to build a sophisticated, realistic, artificial intelligence robot toy with disappointing results. Gemma's sister and her husband are killed in a car accident, leaving Gemma in charge of her young niece, Katie. After her guardianship gets off to a rocky start, Gemma is inspired to finish her creation. M3GAN and Katie quickly become attached to each other, and for a while, this friendship seems to be helping with Katie's grief. But before long, M3GAN starts developing disturbing tendencies and violent accidents begin occurring. Now, that's true. It was pretty good. And to comment earlier about what that person said about the movie not being long enough. I mean, yeah, I noticed that. That tends to be with a lot of horror films. You know, they want action movies to be 3-4 hours long, but horror films, they want to keep it under an hour and a half. It says, is it any good? A combination of sly, funny, self-awareness, a genuine sense of human grief and emotional connection, and an unsettlingly creepy, cool killer robot. This fun horror pick hits all the right buttons. With a story concocted by James Wan and Akela Cooper, M3GAN understands how horror movies are wired and gets pleasure in teasing viewers with these known elements while cheerfully sidestepping the story's flaws. The M3GAN character is in roughly the same vein as Chucky in The Terminator, but she's also their opposite. Her delicate frame, wide eyes, and girlish appearance make her attacks seem somehow more potent and surprising, and the movie uses them to the fullest capacity. The human characters are just as interesting as they grapple with loss in realistic, touching ways, going through rage, sadness, guilt, and more. M3GAN's on-screen point of view display, which shows her detected percentages of human emotions, is a huge kick. This slick, neatly paced film keeps ramping things up until a smashing showdown face to interface. Talk to your kids about, well, first of all, most kids shouldn't even see the movie, but okay. This one says, families can talk about M3GAN's violence. How does it make you feel? Was it exciting? Was it shocking? What did the movie show or not show to achieve this effect? Why is that important? As a person who's a fan of horror films, I can sit there and say that, I mean, this wasn't shocking by any means. I mean, yeah, there was definitely some exciting parts, but I mean, if you didn't see all the other movies that they talked about, and anybody who watched Chucky or like other slasher films, Freddy, Jason, Mike, other types of horror films, Conjuring, Insidious, Saw, all that stuff, this wouldn't be a shock. So it says, is the movie scary? Yeah, there was definitely some scary parts. What's the appeal of horror films? Why do people sometimes like to be scared? Well, probably because they feel that other types of movies are overrated and overplayed and they overmarket them. So you talk about action movies, which are great. So you talk about like the Avengers and Batman and Superman and all that stuff. People already know what to expect out of that. Maybe some people like this stuff because they want something that mixes things up. They want something that is a mystery that keeps them guessing along the way. So that's why I feel like people kind of gravitate towards that a little bit. The other stuff, it's like you already know what's going to happen. How does the movie deal with death, grief, and loss? What is discussed? What else could have been discussed? Well, the movie deals with death, grief, and loss because a young girl had lost her parents in a car crash. They were driving through a blizzard, and they basically collided head-on with a semi-truck. The two parents were killed. The young girl was injured. She had to be hospitalized for a bit. She had to have she had to wear a neck brace. She had to have a cast on her neck. How is consumerism depicted here? Why does a toy company rush to put M3GAN on the market before she's ready, regardless of the consequences? How is consumerism depicted here? They did make a reference to a couple things like Tinder, for example. I think that was just a random reference they threw in there. I'm not really sure how that was depicted. How is bullying behavior depicted? How is the person who perpetrates it dealt with? What are some better ways of handling those who bully others? I mean, I can answer some of that, but again, that'd be spoiling part of the movie. Movie details released on January 6th. The movie's been out for 2 days, and the budget was $12 million. They already grossed $45 million. So it's doing pretty well so far. So other than that, that's what I have to say about this. I think it was a movie that was well worth watching. It's still in theaters. You got time to check it out. I think it's a good one.